Zach Lincoln playing Azorius Stoneblade against Evan McEwen playing Astral Drift.
Yeah, going for a ride on a Fleet Wheel cruiser seems fun.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if he has the actual drifting. I do think that promo art of like the cruiser drifting is kind of horrible compared to the other art.
It's pretty bad. Not gonna lie. But I'd like Astral Drift won a round one here at Modern Mondays, which is pretty competitive event with I think we got like 50-ish people tonight, so not a small number of people.
And he's got Matt. Oh no, that's Zach with Matt pink sleeves. All right, well I guess I'm on Team Zach then.
Hey, I love the pink sleeves.
Yeah, big fan of.
Generally, I go for the black dragon shields. Hashtag not sponsored yet, but if you're listening, feel free to get in touch. Just so I sleeve everything with the same sleeves, and I reuse them for board games and stuff like that, and they look a little bit less dirty than pink sleeves after a couple of years. But if you're just playing Magic, pink sleeves, 2 thumbs up.
Pink or lavender. There's some beautiful lavender sleeves out there.
Yeah, I manage a game shop, and it's interesting we get invoices what companies call their colors because it's not always intuitive.
Yeah, you have a good example for us?
Aqua.
Oh. Aqua's kind of an old term.
Wait, it's what I think of as teal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it not?
Okay, we got a fetch here. Yeah, it's kind of tealish. Okay, when we get a break from the action here, I'm gonna pull up an invoice of a recent sleeve order.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yellow is something does.
Those are my 2 favorites.
Do you like yellow?
Yes, yellow's my favorite color.
I think I'm supposed to be concerned, right? If someone says they feel yellow, that's like, you're more likely to be like self-harm.
Is that what yellow means?
Yeah.
All right.
Are you doing okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing great. Some people like a nice jaundiced look.
Last time I was on the camera, I was also facing against blue-white, so this should be fun.
All right, what are you taking with this Tide Hollow Sculler, Travis?
Well, considering that you're playing Astral Drift, and it looks like Evan went first, if I have a Drift in my hand, I'm probably going to take Teferi. Seems like the cheapest thing Zach's going to be able to do.
Yep, absolutely, and Teferi also deals with the Sculler, so I think I am also on board on taking Teferi. You're going to have to get some work done in these early turns before Zach hits 4 mana, so, just get moving.
Yeah. All right, the end of your turn, I'll fetch.
Zach will go ahead and fetch EOT. Fetch his basic.
Wonder if Zach is playing Mystic Sanctuary.
Yeah, interesting that both players opting for full art basics first off, and neither player opting for any snow basics here.
Yeah, that's something that Ian and I were talking about over some beverages before the stream, is how it's kind of sad now that in Modern it's probably incorrect to not be playing snow basics, even if you're not playing a deck where it matters, because there's multiple tier 1 decks that are playing snow that you get an advantage by throwing off your opponent into being able to ascertain what deck you're on in the early turns.
Yep. Yeah, I do think. I mean, it's your local game shop stuff, like events. So obviously, like eking out every tiny advantage isn't necessary always, but at the same time, it can just, when you do have that feeling of, if you're just making the strictly wrong decision, you should probably, be making the right decision.
Actually, Cute Bunny says snow basics are ugly, and while I think the Ice Age ones are all right, I do think there are much more attractive lands out there, and it does make me sad that I, as of this week, now bought Ice Age basics that are snow to play in my Modern deck, because I love my Arabian Nights Mountain, I love my foil beta art islands, I like my planes signed by Christopher Rush, but you gotta play snow now. I wish you could have an emblem that said like all your basic lands are snow.
You know, maybe some people might let you do that. Maybe Wizards will develop a Planeswalker where it's a plus to make a snow basic emblem. I just want I want the Ruination for Snowlands. Or they can errata Blood Moon to affect snow basics.
I do think that is a frustrating thing, is that Blood Moon doesn't hit snow basics.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think they should errata Blood Moon.
Yeah, the ice full arts are really ugly, I think. Hopefully
I really like the forest. I actually think the forest is sweet. But it's because it's a nice jaundiced yellow color in the backdrop.
Just the island,
the island's really bad.
It looks like cheap, like Christmas art or something.
Yeah, the island's the worst of them for sure.
We don't have a vendetta against Snowlands necessarily. It's just there's a lot of really beautiful basic lands that have existed in Magic, and it's like sad that it's probably a mistake to be playing those these days.
Yeah, just the idea that it limits your basic choices if you want to be strictly correct it's sad, because that is, there's some fun in having just an insane number of basic choices to personalize your deck.
And if you're playing like 12 mountains, you can't tilt your opponent by having all different artworks anymore.
Yes, and Evan playing the onslaught fetches, or cycling lands, excuse me.
Maybe fetches too? We'll find out. Oh, no, we see normal.
Yeah, we've got
a new windswept heath. Yeah. But we work, real estate is like a long-term investment, and you build your portfolio. So
yeah,
Evan's doing all right at this point.
Yeah. No Astral Drift so far.
No Astral Drift, no Stoneforge Mystic. But Evan, having some reasonably interactive creatures, although it is always slightly precarious when your opponent is playing Verdicts, which some Stoneblade lists have been playing Verdict. There's 2 in the main. It seems like the blue-white versions are more on the control side, and the Stoneblade package is like a card advantage package. Also, incidentally, makes you a little bit better against creature-based strategies and burn.
I do not think that Evan has really done enough here to insulate himself against Zach's late game. And I don't know, what do you think of the choice to play the freebooter into the spell queller that he knew about?
Well,
where'd my dice go? Yeah, you're welcome to.
I feel like you're going to have to get around it somehow. And so maybe at this point, if you peg Zach on being as having Verdict, you're at least going to get something back after Zach Verdicts.
Sure. You are completely bricked from attacking. I mean,
we sort of were before, too,
yeah,
right?
It's true.
Go ahead.
Nothing like a turn 4 Aether Vial.
Looks like we picked up a Baron more, so Evan will be able to cycle again this turn, which is, regardless of what happens in the game, you get the fun of moving cards from zones to other zones.
The only thing I like more than blowing up people's lands is drawing cards.
So we're going to play this Blade Splicer into a known cryptic command.
You got to get through it somehow.
Evan does have a Vial. So, I mean, he has the option of waiting 2 turns and trying to bring it in through the Vial. I just don't know if you brute force through what Zach's trying to do.
Sure.
We'll see what the follow-up is. Okay.
Unearth is pretty good.
Yeah, that's super solid. Great sequencing by Evan there. Draws out the counter and is able to eke out some very real value here. And the Golem token can get through the Spell Queller currently.
Yeah, it looks like Zach has flooded out. We've drawn a bunch. Drew a land off the Cryptic, drew a land for turn. And that is one thing you can do against these like blue-white decks, is they're going to draw a lot of cards, but, sort of hope that they draw a lot of lands and try to disrupt the relevant ones.
Yeah, you're still very vulnerable to a sweeper, and you have not really done a ton to Zach's life total, but Zach does only pick up another land off that opt, even after bottoming the top card.
So I don't think Zach's playing Sanctuary at this point, just seeing other non-island dual lands.
Counter.
Yeah, Sanctuary does have some costs, building costs, very real.
Yeah, you kind of want to play the most amount of islands as possible and sequence your lands so you're playing islands early.
I'll take 3.
Zach takes 3. I mean, Evan has a clock. It's just his board is very, very weak to. If Zach is able to get any sort of interaction, the House of Cards falls apart pretty easily here.
Which we don't know if Zach even plays like a Verdict in the deck. It could not be there. And so Evan maybe also thinking about that fact too, or if you just present enough threats that you can attack with, that if Zach is able to then say play a Planeswalker, you might just be able to attack that down.
Sure, but even without a Verdict, if Zach is somehow able to bounce like the Tide Hollow Sculler, grab the Teferi, use that to bounce the Freebooter, he can free up his cards pretty quickly.
Half the spell queller. Half the spell queller.
So Pathing Spell Queller while a Field of Ruin is on the stack.
That says get a basic. Yep. That also on the side of the fetch.
Okay, so we have so this is not quite done correct. So Zach has already put the creature into exile, although he was fetching on with the path on the stack. Anyway, we're doing kind of a convoluted stack interaction that ultimately just results in the players getting a number of basics.
Tapped.
One of them tapped and 2 of them are untapped.
Yeah.
So Zach should end up with 1 tapped, 1 untapped, and Evan ends up with 1 basic untapped. So I actually think Zach should have a land untapped right now. Correct?
Yeah, it's not going to matter though.
Yeah.
Freebooter just used the Snapcaster. And Zach's like, you know what I've been drawing? A bunch of land.
Yeah.
It's like they told me to invest in real estate. Maybe I went a little bit too far.
Yeah, Evan probably you have a mixed feelings when your freebooter an effect like that resolves and you see nothing that you can take, but the opponent's hand is pretty garbage.
Well, at least Zach's not going to be able to, get, or Evan's not going to be able to get a thing back if Zach kills the freebooter. All right, it looks like Zach did draw a Stoneforge, so I think we're going to be able to grab an equipment and cast it.
Yeah, it just blanks almost Evan's entire board.
Sort of Feast and Famine's pretty good.
Yeah, Batterskull's also plenty fine.
Sure.
And Zach has 5 mana.
Oh, now we come to the point in the stream where we're like, Zach, do you have a germ token? Whew, passes the test.
Wow. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. We have both a real golem token and a real germ token.
Those golem tokens are actually kind of challenging to find.
Yeah. The art's pretty weird for him, too.
It is strange.
Ooh, we found an Astral Drift. And Astral Drift plus Cycling Land is very good against a germ token.
Are we going on a ride here?
Well, it looks like, is it a Siege Rhino that's also in hand?
Cycle Astral Drift, targeting token.
So we get just a cycling of Astral Drift here. Which, it's kind of sad to find the namesake card and have to cycle it away, but in this situation, it makes a degree of sense.
Oh, but Zach's going to get to, untap and equip Batterskull to
Yeah.
Stoneforge and then swing.
Yeah, shut up, it's whatever. Come on, small victories, Travis. Yeah, you're right. It's, all things said and done, it may not end up winning by a ton, but
If you have a path left over to when Zach goes to equip, maybe.
But it looks like we're sitting on Siege Rhino and Trophy, maybe Assassin's Trophy, but unable to cast either of them this turn.
It's a lot of lands.
Yeah, Zach has plenty.
We were almost at like equip Batter Skull and hold up Cryptic.
Yeah.
I was playing a Jeskai mana base. Chat asked how many colonnades I took out for sanctuaries. I was playing with 9 fetches, one of which was the Arid Mesa, 3 colonnades. I cut a colonnade to go down to 2, and I cut the non-blue fetch in Arid Mesa.
Untap. Upkeep. Uptick. Oh my god, 4. What's happening?
Zach is like, oh my god, 4. What's going on?
You're gonna slide some Siege Rhinos into your DMs. So I believe that is an Assassin's Trophy. So that's good. Zach is going to be able to bounce the Batter Skull and replay it next turn. So that Germ's coming back. We have
1, 2,
also
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
We've gotten Zach into Cryptic mana. However, it looks like Evan is planning on.
Okay, swing out. Swing.
So then I feel like Zach is going to have to do something, because if Zach doesn't prevent some damage, these flyers are just going to be able to finish Zach off the next turn.
Yeah. Also, a small note on sequencing. If Evan was worried about a Cryptic there, he should have attacked, and then in his attack step, he should have trophied the Stoneforge Mystic. And then even if Zach did have a Cryptic and got into enough mana to cast it, he wouldn't have been able to tap down Evan's creatures.
Okay, and you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Cute Bunny recognizing that Zach actually could have. Or
Yeah.
no, Cute Bunny. I don't think he can do that with. He needs 5 mana to activate the Stoneforge and bounce the Batter Skull to replay it. And I think he only had access to 4 after the trophy went off. But agreed that is a good play if you do have the 5 mana available to do it.
No, I haven't seen Siege Rhino get there in quite a while. That was cool.
Sorry, Extra Mask. No, it's not best of 5. I had the match score wrong. This was match 1. My fault.
Although that would be kind of cool, we would definitely be here until like 4 in the morning.
So it's a good way to test a matchup. So felt like a pretty medium draw by Zach that game. Really did not see a lot of action, but it also didn't feel like Evan's draw was particularly powerful.
I mean, Evan played a lot of permanents. Zach did not, but just that Batter Skull was almost held off Evan enough for Zach to start stabilizing there.
Sven asks, Travis, have you tried any Brineborn decks?
No, but I'm not opposed to it. I think there is some kind of blue-white or Jeskai flash deck where you're not playing any planeswalkers, and you're playing a lot of Mystic Sanctuaries and like Factor Fictions and stuff. But I just think the 3-mana planeswalkers right now are so good that you'd have to have a really great reason not to be playing them. And I think if you're on a control deck, you want to be playing Teferi's and Narset. Narset is just great against a lot of things. Like you prevent the Ascendancy deck from going off. There's a lot of other decks that are just like trying to draw a bunch of cards. And just to be able to play a card that is definitely 2 for 1, if not a 3 for 1, against an opponent that sometimes just shuts off a deck. Yeah, hard not to play that, especially when Force of Negation is a card now, so you're not really punished for tapping out for a Planeswalker on turn 3 a lot of times.
It didn't have quite as many.
Grixis Brineborn. Trying to get the games finished a little faster. Are you trying the Into the Story Thought Scour package?
It was just impossible. Right. So I cut a lot of the fat, made it a lot more like Death and Taxes. Sure. And he had like.
Yeah, we'll actually bring up Brineborn. Talking about it. I believe it's called
which is really hard.
Brineborn Cutthroat.
Yeah, it's a flash. It's a 2-power creature, and whenever you play a spell on your opponent's turn, I believe, it gets a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, friggin'. That probably earns you more wins.
There we see Brineborn Cutthroat.
Yeah.
I can see you playing like a Brineborn in like a deck with Pestermite and maybe an Exarch or something, and then having a Kiki combo like at your top end. That seems like it might be pretty fun. I think there was a list that was doing that 5-0'd one of the leagues recently.
Yeah, exactly. I was like.
What do you think of the art?
I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd have trouble getting into it because the art also.
Yeah, that's definitely in the booth here. A big, that's super strong deck building consideration is like, are you gonna want to stare at this card?
Yeah.
For 4 hours.
I mean, you have to look at, like, even in just a single Modern Monday, you have to look at your cards for, like, a lot of the night. I mean, that's the thing with basics, right? You look at your basics, like, so much of the evening.
Yeah, and then, like, if you really want to draw a card, you have to think about the art. Like, if you're not into the Brineborn art and don't have that emotional, relationship with it, it's probably not going to show up when you need it.
It's true. The only time cards show up when you need them is if you're cheating or you have an emotional relationship with them. There's only a couple options.
It takes time for people to get cards, but.
And if you're doing both, then you have the highest chance if you're both cheating and have an emotional relationship.
Portland Paper does not advocate cheating in any form or fashion.
No, absolutely not.
It's not as degenerate as like I'd say Tron or.
Oh, what are some other cool decks that you've seen lately? Any lists that you think are exciting, Ian?
Yeah, didn't I text you something recently? Ooh, give me a second.
People are packing a lot more interaction main board. Right.
All right, Evan resolving a mulligan here. And, after having played with the new mulligan rule, it's great. I feel like Magic players always think the sky is falling and that, everything is going to be ruined with this mulligan rule. But playing fair decks, I like it. Feels like unfair decks like it. Everybody likes it.
So, there is a card. There is a card, Travis.
There is a card. Well, both of our players in this match have played a land. One of them is a fetch land.
We'll get back to it. I do have a deck that I'm excited to share with you, but we'll focus on the match at hand.
So we didn't get a chance to scope out our players' sideboards before the match started. I'm curious what Evan has hanging out. Oh. Zach was given a real hard thought to playing out Stoneforge.
Is he sitting on Dovin's veto? Is that his?
Sitting on Dovin's veto.
Okay.
Which I kind of like playing out the Stoneforge on turn 2 because I don't think there's something that Evan is going to do on 2 that is going to be super impactful that's not a creature spell.
Right. Agreed.
I had a feeling that was the case.
So Zach maybe also regretting his decision a little bit here. We have a Gideon's Spellbook Path to Exile, I believe, in hand.
It's the Gideon deck, right? Yeah. I got that and the rest in pieces. I just love them.
Wow, Zach loves the borders of the Gideon spellbook cards.
I have the Jace's Spellbook Brainstorms. I think they're all right.
You know, I like both you and Zach a lot as people, and I think you're two of like
Okay,
the
wait, you can just
kindest.
stop there. Point taken. Yeah, they're a particular aesthetic. You certainly can't misthink that it's a different card in your hand when you have it. I know that Brainstorm is the only card in Legacy I have that has a weird ass border like that, so I definitely, when I'm looking at my hand, I know that it's a Brainstorm, so I don't forget.
Oh, I think we're on 2 stone forges, which that's actually pretty cool because um, you're going to be able to like go get equipment now, then grab one maybe next turn, and then put in whichever one you think is going to be most impactful.
So Zach grabs the old Sword of Feast and Famine.
So pro black, pro green, creature's going to get +2/+2. Whenever it deals damage to a player, you are going to get to untap all your lands, and your opponent is going to have to discard a card. Usually the untap your lands clause is what's relevant when you're playing Teferi, Spellqueller, Cryptic Command, etc.
Yeah, the swords are so weird in that, like, I always think whenever I see them that they need to be associated with a color, and like there's no color requirements. So you're just getting effects that are not at all associated with the colors you're playing.
It seems kind of unthemed to me. It's a sword.
You just pick up a cool thing and you're
Yeah.
like, well, I don't normally do this, but I guess I'm gonna stab somebody for discard a card and get my lands back.
And looks like Zach took 2 2 again.
A Temple Garden untapped.
So we're gonna fetch Shock on Evan's side.
Could be wrong about that life total.
Licorice
think-
targeting Scully. Yeah. End of turn. Yep. Scully.
So I guess Evan's just feeling like he needs to get some pressure down here. Kind of interesting targeting the Sculler. I guess it's kind of free if he wants to take the path again, because Zach's only sitting on an island. He could have alternatively targeted one of his own lands to bluffed maybe something like a Path to Exile on his own side.
I can kind of see getting more information,
Yeah. Take the
especially because Zach doesn't have white up.
Go ahead. Untap. Yep.
This feels like last game, similar to last game, in that Evan hasn't really done a ton of damage, and we're already at turn 4, except I think Zach has a lot more gas this time around.
Yeah, it does feel like Evan's wanting to just be kind of disruptive maybe in the early game and then get your combo piece down. Kind of seems to play out similar to kind of a Hate Bears type deck, except maybe with the Astral Drift like cycling engine to have a better late game.
Yeah, I do almost feel like, as much as I love the Astral Drift engine, I do feel like Ephemerate was such a powerful rate for the effect that it gives that I've almost found that just the Ephemerate decks are kind of like more powerful versions of these Astral Drift decks.
Yeah, I think I would want to be playing something like the Soul Herder deck with like Mole Drifter and Ephemerate um, to accrue card advantage in that way. Just because your other cards are a little bit better, and just Soul Herder can get to be huge while you're still getting the kind of flicker effects.
Right, it actually gives you essentially an engine that's almost as good as the Astral Drift engine without actually needing to have the 3 cards required with the Astral Drift engine. With the Astral Drift engine, you need the Drift itself, a cycling card, plus another creature as a payoff. And Soul Herder is kind of both a payoff and an enabler in itself.
And then you get to play Ephemerate, which is just an amazing Magic card.
True.
Huh. Zach let that Thoughtseize resolve, which is interesting. Maybe Zach pegs Evan for having some kind of artifact removal. I probably would have put in this sort of Feast and Famine at this point. Because I'm not sure what I'm afraid of off of 2 mana, and then even if Evan does have like artifact removal, you're going to be able to search up another either sword if you're playing more than one or Batter Skull to put into play the next turn. What do you think?
I'm with you. I think I would have just fired off the sword, but I also don't think Zach's under that much pressure.
Yeah, that was me leading into that thought. I know.
So I think potentially holding up Cryptic or making Evan take Cryptic. There's not a ton of I think Zach's just playing it very safe.
I'll take a Cryptic.
Okay. I don't know. I think I would have taken sword there unless I have removal.
Well, it looks like there is an Assassin's Trophy in hand for Evan. There is not currently the mana to cast it, though.
Which is maybe why we see the Baron more played. When you really kind of want to cycle that.
It's just really rough because Evan is likely going to get hit here. Oh, okay. Okay. We've got a path.
It's gone.
So we're going to ramp Zach. We're going to ramp Zach a little bit here, but prevent the hit with the Sword of Feast and Famine next turn.
Do you see a Verdict hanging out in Zach's deck now?
I'm the naysayer. Thanks for hosting us. Appreciate it.
So for folks just joining us, we're watching round 2 of 4 here at Modern Mondays at Guardian Games in Portland, Oregon. We got about 50 people playing tonight. Pretty good turnout. And we've got Stoneblade versus Abzan Astral Drift. Game 1, we had a Siege Rhino come down for the victory.
Really would like to see Evan get something going with some sort of engine. I mean, the beats have been solid.
The beats are pretty slow but consistent. So
Yeah, I mean we're at 5 a turn currently, so
they were down tempo house music maybe.
Yeah. Flicker West levels some real damage. Zach,
do you think Zach is Flashing and Snapcaster gonna target Opt, but then we're gonna go for a block.
Trophy the mage.
But Evan is trophying the Snapcaster mage, so doesn't want Snap to block the Tidehilo Sculler. So, Zach is going to take a hit, but is getting all the land drops with the Path and the Trophy, and then is going to be able to deploy this Stoneforge and probably get a Batter Skull. So, if Zach draws any relevant interaction, I feel like he can kind of at least stabilize the game, if not break serve.
yeah, this definitely is on a razor's edge. Evan is just trying to get over the finish line here, and I think it's going to be close because I think he's sitting on just a Scattered Groves in hand. So Evan also hoping to cycle into something real because otherwise, like you said, Zach, once he gets out Batter Skull Germ Token with both the Batter Skull and a Sword of Feast and Famine on it, he will run away with this game very quickly.
And we do have a Celestial Colonnade that can act as a profitable blocker for this Flicker Wisp if it comes down to that.
Good point.
Yep.
So the Skull's in play here. This does allow Evan to get in. He'll get in at least 3 damage with the Flicker Wisp unless Zach's sitting on a Path to Exile.
It is going to be pretty cool if Zach is going to be able to deal some damage with this sort of feast and famine next turn, because then you'll be able to untap with Colonnade.
Right. Yeah,
So
I think if he hits with the germ, especially if it's got the sword on it, and gets 6 life out of it, I think that basically that's the swing.
yeah, it really does depend on what Evan does this next turn, but I'd almost be tempted to put the sword on my Stoneforge so that then you kind of insulate yourself to a removal spell.
Tough to see what's in Evan's hand, but it looks like maybe an Ether Vial and another, like a Kite Sail freebooter maybe? Both of those seem a little too mopey to take the game here. I think if that's the extent of Evan's plays this turn, then we are going to see Zach run away with the game in the next 2 turns. Freebooter grabs the Mana Leak.
Zach, I could recommend a land for you to play that would make your fetch land an upgrade. Been talking a lot about Mystic Sanctuary this stream.
Yeah, I think both of us do feel like, you know, I think Once Upon a Time is also very powerful, but besides that, I would say it is one of the more powerful. Wow, interesting choice. So Zach is like really respecting a removal spell from Evan here.
Yeah, I mean, I would think, how can I lose, and what's the best way to insulate from myself from that if I'm Zach? Because if you start connecting, you're going to win. And this does seem like the correct play, and I like the line.
Yeah. Goes up to 8. Gets rid of the vial. If he knew that swing was coming, might have been correct from Evan to just play the vial, but I guess he did manage to keep Zach from gaining as much life with the bluff.
Ooh, this is pretty good. Could I bounce the Tide Hollow? Get to path the Flicker Wisp? Feels like the writing's on the wall here.
Yeah, I think as soon as we connected with the Batter Skull this turn successfully, I think that turned the corner. I don't think that there was any single draw that Evan could have after that that's going to get him out of this.
Yeah, so Zach's going to be able to block the Flicker Wisp with a Colonnade if he wants, then still have path up.
Attempt to cycle Baron.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of cycling from Evan.
That looks
this
like another
game.
vial.
Yeah, just no cycling with any sort of reasonable payoff.
Okay, looks like that's a concession. We're going to go to game 3.
Possibly. Depends on how fast the draw is.
Oh, that is Zach's Mana Leak. Looks like we have about 5 minutes left in round. Our
It's been
clock's
kind of
off.
a long one here. Both pretty slow and grindy decks here.
I'll go first. Yeah, absolutely.
And Zach could maybe just Stoneforge, Batter Skull, keep the board clear.
You need a four. Oh, you're trying to. I'm surprised I even got that close.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about these Stoneblade decks. It's not blue. It's not your blue-white control deck of yore. This deck's not trying to 5 mana Teferi, run their deck out and loop Teferi to destroy all your permanents and hope to win that way. It actually has some very real movement to it.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the amount of 5 mana Teferi sort of just slowly go to 0 in control builds, just as either the Stoneforge package or the 3 mana Planeswalker package has kind of pushed that card out. I recently dropped them from my list. I was holding on to one of for a while, but yeah, just there's some really good card draw spells now, like Fact or Fiction or Into the Story, that are going to immediately get you multiple cards that you can play on 4 mana that sort of have taken over that slot in my decks, and it seems like a lot of other people that are playing mid-rangey control blue-white Jeskai decks are kind of in the same boat.
Night Sven, thanks for dropping in. Catch you later.
Someone asked what's the best card to counter Is It Phoenix. I went to build a deck just to counter Is It Phoenix in Modern.
you know the answer to this. Although Is It Phoenix is not really a deck that's probably worthy of trying to counter at this point. I think it's probably fallen into maybe 0.5% of the metagame.
Yeah, I've seen people doing like a storm variant with Pyromancer's Ascension and like chart a course that have Phoenixes in there, but it's not a super popular deck. So I would say the DCI ban system is probably your best friend for how
Oh.
to.
Yeah, I honestly think of the versions available now, Narset might be the best card to counter the deck.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of times if you just play Narset and don't downtick, they have to devote so many resources to actually getting rid of it that if you have any other leftovers in your hand, you're doing pretty good. Okay, we need a turn 2 Batter Skull from Zach, or a turn 2 Stoneforge from Zach.
Okay, we see the freebooter. I mean, this is a hand that I could see Evan winning against. It is slow from Zach's side. Colonnade is a good draw. We've got an Astral Drift.
But you gotta play quickly here.
All right, Travis. We have an Astral Drift on the battlefield for the first time in every game we've played here. No payoffs yet.
Whenever I cycle,
I imagine that Evan's plan A is Siege Rhino. Getting a Siege Rhino
when you
out there
cycle,
and
this
then...
trigger goes on the slide.
Zach courteously playing with his hand revealed, which is really going to help speed this game up a little bit. But again, it doesn't look like Evan has a payoff. It looks like he's sitting on maybe a Scattered Groves, a Tide Hollow Sculler, and a white cycling land.
You know what's really
Cycle Secluded Step, blink the spell card.
Does this do anything?
Nope.
Time.
Oh, it does
it's end of
because the
turn?
creature doesn't return until...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's
pretty good.
legit.
Take the half.
Okay, and get in for one with the freebooter. I like it.
We're doing something. Yeah, I forgot that the drift was the end of turn.
Yeah, it's got the old Flicker Wisp text.
Got it.
Looks like just a Scattered Groves as the last cycling card. So we've got the Thoughtseize.
And Zach's not on Cryptic Mana right now, which a couple that is the downside of the multiple Field of Ruins, is that sometimes you can't have your mana available and then to activate Field of Ruin in the early turns because you want to make other plays, and then by turn 4 you're not able to cast Cryptic Command.
Okay. We see Path going off on the freebooter.
You know,
Looks like we're
I
at
keep trying to
time
think
and
of some like flickering shenanigans here, but
Ooh, that's a scary word to use anymore. Shenanigans? Yeah, now that they've named a card Shenanigans. It's
Well, I guess we do have a Tide Hollow Sculler, which is an artifact, but
yeah. We don't have any red in the game, but it's just it became one of those words, when they like steal a word from your vocabulary and turn it into a magic card. What do you think? If you're Evan here, do you cycle that Scattered Groves to stop the path?
Well, I guess you could take the Cryptic, which seems all right.
Okay, so we see the path grabs back the Mana Leak, and the Mana Leak targets the Thoughtseize. So it looks like Evan is opting to protect the Tide Hollow Sculler. Unfortunately, we're still at a bit of an impasse since we are at turn 0.
Ooh, kind of a little bit punished for not playing that land.
So this looks like turn 1 here. I assume the players are aware that we're at time and round, although I don't see a dice on the battlefield tracking turns.
All right, so we might get
Cycle Scatter Groves, targeting the germ.
the Spell Queller might start wearing a Batter Skull.
Fetch. 10.
Yeah, I mean, Evan's going to be able to potentially cycle to keep Zach off.
Yeah, I mean maybe. One would Evan hope so.
Yeah. But he's not winning the game if he's just using his cycling cards to keep Evan off cards. And it looks like we are out of cycling cards, just a Windswept Teeth and a Kite Sail freebooter in hand. So,
Kite Sail, take the cryptic.
nah, life totals are correct, Extra Mask. Evan has taken a lot of damage from his own lands this game. A lot of fetch shocking, and Zach's mana base has been relatively pain-free.
Yep. Crash for 6.
So should be turn 3 here. I'm just assuming that players are aware of this. So I believe this is turn 4.
Step, targeting the Spell Queller. Does it go until the end of turn? Till the end of turn, yeah.
Huh. I'm not sure I like that cycle. I would have kind of wanted to do that on Zach's turn, to be honest. But it looks like we got another one here. Definitely, if it's...
Scatter Groves, targeting freebooter.
Ooh.
Take the cryptic. Cryptic. Freebooter.
Okay, well, now there's no way that Evan can lose.
So this should be turn 5.
Yep. Crash for 6.
We're debating here, but this is turn 5.
Kite Sail. Get that correct. 6. I can't get you.
Right, I was just checking with players what turn they were in, and they were in turn 5, so...